You've chosen to spend an hour exploring Resident Evil lore to sleep to, and you made the perfect choice for drifting into peaceful rest tonight. As you settle in and let the day fade away, we're going to journey through the twisted corporate corridors and abandoned laboratories of the Resident Evil universe, where ambition and science created nightmares that would haunt the world for decades. This is a complete story of biological terror, corporate greed, and the heroes who stood against the darkness, told gently to guide you towards sleep. Our story begins in the 1960s, long before the world knew the name Umbrella Corporation. Three brilliant young scientists met at a prestigious European university, each driven by ambitions that would eventually doom millions. Oswald Spencer came from old British nobility, carrying both wealth and a dangerous fascination with human evolution. Edward Ashford was a gifted researcher with a pure love of discovery. James Marcus possessed a brilliant but ruthless mind that saw science as power to be wielded. These three men would form a friendship based on shared intellectual curiosity and complementary skills. Spencer brought funding and connections, Ashford brought scientific genius, and Marcus brought practical applications to their discoveries. Together, they dreamed of pushing biology beyond its natural limits, of conquering disease, aging, and even death itself. Their conversations in university halls and late-night laboratories laid the groundwork for horrors they couldn't yet imagine. In 1966, Spencer organized an expedition to West Africa based on ancient documents he had discovered in his family's archives. These papers described a flower that granted extraordinary abilities to those who consumed it, allowing tribal leaders to demonstrate superhuman strength and survive wounds that would kill normal people. Spencer believed this wasn't myth but evidence of an undiscovered biological agent with incredible potential. The expedition found what they were looking for in the Napaya tribe's sacred garden. The Stairway of the Sunflowers contained a virus unlike anything known to science. This progenitor virus, as they would name it, could rewrite genetic code at a fundamental level. Most who were exposed died horribly as their cells mutated out of control, but the rare survivors gained enhanced abilities. Here was the key to human evolution, the power to reshape humanity itself. Spencer saw in progenitor virus the means to create a new world order with himself as its architect. Ashford saw the potential to eliminate disease and extend human life indefinitely. Marcus saw a tool for creating perfect biological weapons that could be sold to the highest bidder. These different visions would eventually tear their partnership apart, but first, they needed to develop the virus into something controllable. In 1968, the three founded the Umbrella Corporation as a pharmaceutical company that would serve as cover for their real research. On the surface, Umbrella produced medicines, cosmetics, and consumer products that quickly became household names. The smiling red and white umbrella logo appeared in homes across the world, a symbol of health and protection that had unimaginable darkness beneath. The company's public success funded extensive secret laboratories where the progenitor virus was studied and modified. The original virus was too lethal for practical use, killing over 90% of test subjects. Years of research went into creating variants that could produce specific results without immediate death. Each founder established their own research facilities, pursuing different applications while sharing certain findings. Spencer built his primary laboratory beneath a mansion in the Arkley Mountains near Raccoon City. The mansion itself was a masterpiece of architecture designed by George Trevor, featuring hidden passages, elaborate traps, and secret rooms. Spencer would later murder Trevor and his entire family to keep the mansion's secrets, establishing a pattern of eliminating anyone who knew too much about Umbrella's true nature. The mansion's underground facility became the center for Spencer's research into creating a virus that could be controlled and weaponized. He recruited brilliant scientists from around the world, offering them unlimited resources and freedom from ethical constraints. Many came believing they were advancing medicine. They learned the truth only after they were too deep to escape. Edward Ashford established his laboratory in Antarctica, far from prying eyes and government oversight. His research focused on the medical applications of the progenitor virus, trying to unlock its regenerative properties without the fatal mutations. His work progressed slowly but steadily, coming closer to creating a strain that could enhance rather than destroy human biology. Tragically, Ashford died in 1968 from accidental exposure to a variant of the progenitor virus. His death was officially listed as a laboratory accident, But Spencer may have arranged the exposure to eliminate a partner whose vision conflicted with his own. Ashford left behind a son, Alexander, who would take over his research, and a daughter who would carry on the family name in ways that honored and perverted her father's legacy. James Marcus created his facility as part of the Umbrella Executive Training School, where he could combine research with training the next generation of Umbrella employees. Marcus developed an obsession with leeches, believing their simple biology made them perfect test subjects for viral manipulation. His research produced remarkable results, creating leeches that could act with coordinated intelligence and purpose. The relationship between the three founders deteriorated as their research progressed. Spencer wanted absolute control over the progenitor virus and its applications. Marcus's increasingly unethical experiments, even by Umbrella standards, threatened to expose their work. Ashford's death removed the mediating influence between the two remaining partners, setting the stage for betrayal. In 1978, Spencer orchestrated Marcus's assassination, sending a young security operative named Albert Weskier and his partner William Birkin to eliminate the troublesome scientist. Marcus was shot and his body dumped, his research seized and redistributed to facilities Spencer controlled. The murder was covered up as another accident, with Marcus's disappearance explained as a voluntary retirement. With his rivals eliminated, Spencer consolidated control over Umbrella Corporation. He positioned himself as a benevolent CEO of a pharmaceutical giant, while secretly directing research into biological weapons that could reshape or destroy humanity. His ultimate goal, known only to his closest confidants, was to use viral evolution to create a race of superhumans with himself as their god and ruler. The development of the T virus marked Umbrella's first major breakthrough in weaponizing progenitor virus. Created by combining progenitor with leech DNA from Marcus's research, the T virus could reanimate dead tissue, creating creatures that felt no pain, needed no rest, and existed only to feed and spread infection. The virus was highly contagious, spreading through bodily fluids and capable of infecting most mammals. Initial T virus testing produced horrifying results. Human subjects who died from exposure would reanimate as zombies, driven by base hunger with no higher brain function. Their bodies continued to decay even as they moved, creating walking corpses that could only be stopped by destroying the brain. Animal subjects mutated in unpredictable ways, becoming larger, more aggressive, and developing bizarre anatomical changes. The commercial potential of the T virus as a biological weapon was immediately apparent. A single infected individual could destroy a city, creating an army of undead that would overwhelm conventional military forces. The virus could be deployed secretly, with symptoms taking days to manifest, allowing it to spread widely before anyone realized an attack had occurred. Umbrella began developing various delivery systems for the T virus and creating specific bioorganic weapons, BOWs, that could be controlled and directed. The Hunters were created by combining human DNA with reptilian genetic material, producing bipedal creatures with razor-sharp claws and predatory intelligence. Cerberus dogs were infected canines that retained pack-hunting instincts while gaining increased strength and aggression. The crown jewel of Umbrella's T-virus research was the Tyrant Project. These were specially selected human subjects infected with a refined T-virus strain that preserved some intelligence while dramatically enhancing physical capabilities. Tyrant stood over 7 feet tall, possessed strength that could punch through concrete, and could follow simple commands. They represented the perfect merger of weapon and soldier. Throughout the 1980s and early 1990s, Umbrella continued refining their biological weapons while maintaining their pharmaceutical cover. They supplied conventional medicines at low cost to build goodwill, used their wealth to influence politicians and law enforcement, and eliminated anyone who threatened to expose their secrets. Entire families disappeared, journalists died in accidents, and government investigators found their cases mysteriously closed. William Birkin emerged as one of Umbrella's most brilliant and ambitious scientists during this period. A child prodigy who joined the company at 15, Birkin quickly rose to the ranks through a combination of genuine genius and ruthless ambition. He viewed the T-virus as merely a stepping stone to something greater, beginning development of what he called the G-virus. The G-virus represented a fundamental departure from the T-virus's purpose. Where T created weapons and zombies, G promised evolution. Subjects infected with G-virus would mutate continuously, developing new abilities and appendages in response to threats. The virus could theoretically grant immortality through constant regeneration and adaptation. Birkin saw it as the key to human transcendence. Birkin's research was conducted in a secret laboratory beneath Raccoon City, a Midwestern American city that had become economically dependent on Umbrella. The company employed thousands of residents, funded civic projects, and essentially controlled local government. This made Raccoon City the perfect testing ground for biological weapons, isolated enough to contain disasters while populated enough to provide realistic data. The Arkley Research Facility, housed in Spencer's mansion, became the site of the first major T-virus outbreak in May 1998. A saboteur, later revealed to be the Queen Leech under the control of James Marcus's consciousness, had released a virus throughout the facility. Within hours, the entire staff was either dead or transformed into monsters. The mansion that had hidden Umbrella's secrets became a death trap, filled with zombies, mutant animals, and escaped bowels. Reports of bizarre murders in the Arkley Mountains prompted Raccoon City to send their Special Police Unit, SDRS, to investigate. The Special Tactics and Rescue Service was an elite unit trained for extraordinary situations, though nothing could prepare them for what they would encounter. The team was divided into two squads, Alpha Team and Bravo Team, each containing specialists in various fields. Bravo Team was sent first, their helicopter crashing in the forest due to engine failure. The team scattered, with members encountering zombies and monsters they couldn't understand. Rebecca Chambers, the team's medic and youngest member at 18, found shelter in an abandoned training facility that turned out to be Marcus's old laboratory, now overrun with infected creatures. When Bravo Team failed to report, Alpha Team was dispatched to find them. The team included Chris Redfield, a former Air Force pilot with exceptional marksmanship skills, Jill Valentine, an explosives expert with military training, Barry Burton, a weapons specialist and family man, and their captain, Albert Weskier, who harbored dark secrets about his true allegiance. The Alpha Team's helicopter was attacked by mutant dogs, forcing them to flee into mansion for shelter. What followed was a night of survival horror as the team members, separated and hunted, discovered the truth about Umbrella's experiments. They found research notes describing viral development, encountered failed experiments locked in cells, and witnessed the results of science unchecked by morality. Chris Redfield's journey to the mansion revealed his natural leadership and adaptability. Despite having no knowledge of biological weapons, he quickly understood the threat they posed and the evil of the corporation that created them. His military training kept him alive, but it was his determination to save his teammates and expose Umbrella that drove him forward. Jill Valentine proved equally capable, using her expertise in unlocking mechanisms and her tactical knowledge to navigate the mansion's traps. She discovered the mansion's true purpose as a research facility, finding evidence of human experimentation and corporate murder. Her experiences at night would transform her from a police officer into one of Umbrella's most dedicated opponents. The greatest betrayal came from Albert Weskier, who revealed himself as an Umbrella operative planted to observe SDRS and test the bioweapons against trained combatants. Weskier had orchestrated the mansion incident as a data-gathering exercise, treating his subordinates as expendable test subjects. He released the Tyrant, Umbrella's ultimate creation, intending to collect combat data before eliminating all witnesses. Weskier's plan failed when the Tyrant turned on him, apparently killing him with a single strike. Chris and Jill managed to defeat the creature and escape the mansion before its self-destruct system activated, destroying most evidence of Umbrella's crimes. They survived along with Barry Burton and Rebecca Chambers, while Bravo Team was almost entirely eliminated. The survivors tried to expose Umbrella's activities, but the corporation's influence ran too deep. The Raccoon City police chief was on Umbrella's payroll. The media dismissed their claims as trauma-induced illusions, and official investigations were blocked or redirected. Chris left for Europe to investigate Umbrella's operations there, while Jill remained in Raccoon City, continuing to gather evidence. Unknown to anyone at the time, Albert Weskier had survived the Tyrant's attack. He had injected himself with an experimental virus provided by a rival company, which allowed him to fake his death and gain superhuman abilities. Weskier's resurrection marked his transformation from Umbrella employee to independent operator with his own apocalyptic agenda. 2 months after the mansion incident, Raccoon City experienced a series of strange occurrences. People reported seeing grotesque figures in the shadows. Pets went missing, and a mysterious illness began spreading to the population. These were early signs of T-virus contamination seeping from Umbrella's underground facilities, spread by infected rats and contaminated water. William Birkin's paranoia during this period reached dangerous levels. He knew Umbrella planned to steal his G-virus research, viewing it as too valuable to remain in one scientist's hands. Birkin attempted to sell the virus to the U.S. government in exchange for protection, but Umbrella learned of his betrayal and sent a special forces team to retrieve the samples. The confrontation between Birkin and Umbrella's security force ended catastrophically. Birkin was shot multiple times and left for dead, but in his final moments, he injected himself with the G-virus. The virus transformed him into a constantly mutating monster driven by primitive instincts and parental attachment to his daughter Sherry. The mutated Birkin attacked the security team, causing a T-virus outbreak in the sewers that quickly spread throughout the city. By late September 1998, Raccoon City was in chaos. The virus spread faster than authorities could respond, turning citizens into zombies within hours of infection. The city's infrastructure collapsed as essential workers died or fled. Streets filled with abandoned cars, buildings burned unchecked, and the screams of the dying echoed through empty neighborhoods. Leon Kennedy arrived in Raccoon City on September 29th, his first day as a police officer turning into a nightmare of survival. Fresh from the academy, Leon had no knowledge of Umbrella or biological weapons. He found the police station overrun with zombies, most officers dead, and the city in complete breakdown. His police training and natural resourcefulness kept him alive when most would have died. Claire Redfield came to Raccoon City searching for her brother Chris, unaware he had left for Europe. A college student with some combat training from Chris, Claire possessed determination and courage that served her well in the dying city. She arrived on a motorcycle, finding streets filled with zombies and abandoning her vehicle to seek shelter. Leon and Claire met at a gas station on the city outskirts, immediately forced to cooperate for survival. They commandeered a police car and attempted to reach the police station, but were separated when a fuel truck exploded, forcing them to find different paths through the city. This separation would lead them on parallel journeys that revealed different aspects of the outbreak. Leon's path to the police station brought him into contact with Ada Wong, a mysterious woman claiming to be looking for her boyfriend, an Umbrella researcher. Ada was actually a spy working for a rival corporation, sent to retrieve a G-virus sample from Birkin's laboratory. Her relationship with Leon complicated both their missions, genuine attraction mixing with professional deception. The Raccoon City Police Department building, a converted art museum, became a maze of horror. Its ornate architecture created countless blind corners where zombies lurked. Evidence scattered throughout revealed how the outbreak had progressed, from initial confusion to desperate last stands. Chief Brian Irons had gone insane, hunting survivors through the building while protecting Umbrella's secrets. Claire's journey led her to find Sherry Birkin, William Birkin's daughter, who was being hunted by her mutated father. The G-virus had preserved some parental recognition in Birkin's monstrous form, driving him to pursue Sherry with the instinct to reproduce through implantation. Claire became Sherry's protector, their relationship providing human connection amid inhuman horror. The police station's underground passages connected to Umbrella's secret laboratory, revealing the full extent of the company's operations beneath Raccoon City. Miles of tunnels, research facilities, and testing chambers existed below the unsuspecting population. Here, Leon and Ada confronted the mutating William Birkin multiple times, each encounter showing further degradation of his human form. Annette Birkin, William's wife and research partner, survived in a laboratory trying to prevent the G-virus from escaping while protecting her daughter. Her confrontations with Ada Wong revealed the spy's true purpose, though Annette was fatally wounded before she could stop the theft. Her death scene with Sherry provided tragic closure to a family destroyed by scientific ambition. The tyrant-designated T-00, known as Mr. X, was deployed into Raccoon City to eliminate witnesses and retrieve G-virus samples. This improved tyrant model wore a trench coat to blend with human populations and possessed enough intelligence to use weapons and pursue targets relentlessly. Its pursuit of Leon and Claire through the police station created constant tension, an unstoppable force that could appear at any moment. Leon and Ada's relationship developed despite the circumstances, attraction growing amid constant danger. Ada saved Leon multiple times, while he protected her despite suspecting her deception. When Ada was severely wounded and fell into an abyss, Leon believed her dead, not knowing she would survive to play a crucial role in future events. The U.S. government's response to the Raccoon City outbreak revealed the depths of Umbrella's influence. Initial military cordons were overwhelmed by the infection's spread. Officials debated quarantine versus elimination, while Umbrella's lobbyists worked to minimize the company's culpability. The decision was ultimately made to destroy the entire city with a nuclear weapon, eliminating evidence along with survivors. On October 1st, 1998, Leon, Claire, and Sherry escaped Raccoon City aboard a train just hours before the missile strike. Behind them, a nuclear explosion erased America's most contaminated city, killing over 100,000 people. The official story blamed a nuclear plant meltdown, though survivors knew the truth about Umbrella's responsibility for the disaster. The destruction of Raccoon City marked a turning point in the biological weapons crisis. Umbrella Corporation faced lawsuits, investigations, and public backlash, though their wealth and connections initially protected them. Stock prices plummeted, facilities closed, and employees fled or disappeared. The company that had seemed invincible began its slow collapse. Chris Redfield's investigation in Europe revealed Umbrella's international operations. The corporation had facilities on every continent, each developing different biological weapons. The Paris laboratory focused on viral transmission vectors. The Russian facility worked on cold-resistant strains. Each location operated independently while sharing certain research, creating a web of biological terror spanning the globe. In December 1998, Chris infiltrated Rockford Island, an Umbrella prison and research facility. The island housed political prisoners, captured researchers who knew too much, and test subjects for new experiments. Chris arrived searching for his sister Claire, who had been captured while investigating Umbrella's Paris facility. Claire's imprisonment on Rockford Island coincided with an attack by an unknown military force later revealed to be led by Albert Weskier. The attack released T-virus throughout the facility, transforming guards and prisoners alike into zombies. Claire escaped her cell and began searching for a way off the island while avoiding both monsters and Weskier's forces. Claire encountered Steve Burnside, a 17-year-old prisoner whose father had betrayed Umbrella and been imprisoned with his family. Steve's mother was dead. His father transformed into a monster, leaving the teenager alone and desperate for escape. His relationship with Claire developed from mutual need to genuine affection, though his impulsiveness often created more danger than safety. The Rockford facility's commander, Alfred Ashford, descended into madness during the outbreak. Alfred believed himself to be his ancestor Alexia, switching between personalities and costumes. This psychological breakdown stemmed from his relationship with his actual sister Alexia, who had been in cryogenic sleep for 15 years after injecting herself with the T. Veronica virus. The T. Veronica virus represented the Ashford family's attempt to surpass Spencer's research. Created by Alexia Ashford at age 10, the virus combined progenitor with queen ant and plant DNA, creating organisms that could control others through pheromones while possessing plant-like regeneration. Alexia had infected herself and entered suspended animation to allow the virus to properly integrate with her genetics. Alexia's awakening transformed her into something beyond human. She retained her intelligence while gaining the ability to combust her blood as a weapon, control lesser creatures, and mutate into increasingly powerful forms. She viewed herself as the next stage of evolution, destined to replace humanity with her offspring. Her partnership with Weskier was always temporary, both planning to betray the other. Chris arrived at Rockford Island too late to find Claire, but followed her trail to Antarctica, where Umbrella's original Ashford facility still operated. The Antarctic base revealed the full history of the Ashford family's research, from Edward's original noble intentions to his descendants' megalomaniacal ambitions. The confrontation between Chris and Alexia tested the limits of human capability against viral enhancement. Alexia's mutations gave her abilities that seemed to violate physics, creating fire from nothing, regenerating from injuries that should be fatal and transforming into increasingly monstrous forms. Only Chris's determination and a new weapon, the linear launcher, could finally destroy her. Weskier's appearance in Antarctica revealed his true agenda. No longer serving Umbrella or any government, he sought to collect viral samples to create his own perfect virus. His superhuman speed and strength made him nearly invincible in combat, easily overpowering Chris. Only the facility's imminent self-destruction forced Weskier to retreat, promising future confrontation. Steve Burnside's death in Antarctica provided tragic punctuation to Claire's journey. Infected with T. Veronica by Alexia, Steve mutated into a monster, but retained enough humanity to recognize Claire and resist attacking her. His death in her arms, confessing his love with his final words, showed that human emotion could sometimes overcome viral programming. The aftermath of Rockford Island in Antarctica led Chris and Claire to join different organizations fighting biological weapons. Chris became a founding member of the Bioterrorism Security Assessment Alliance, the BSA, dedicated to preventing biological attacks worldwide. Claire joined TerraSave, a non-governmental organization focused on helping victims of bioterrorism and exposing corporate crimes. Leon Kennedy's recruitment by the U.S. government followed a different path. Recognized for his survival in Raccoon City and potential as an agent, Leon was forced into government service, which Sherry Birkin used as leverage. His training transformed him from rookie cop to elite operative, though the experience hardened him in ways that concerned those who knew him before. Umbrella Corporation's final collapse came in 2003, brought down by stock crashes, legal battles, and testimony from whistleblowers like Yoko Suzuki, a former researcher who exposed their crimes. The company's assets were seized, its executives arrested or disappeared, and its facilities shut down. The organization that had terrorized the world for decades finally ended, though its legacy would persist. The power vacuum left by Umbrella's collapse created new threats. Former employees sold their knowledge to the highest bidder. Rival corporations acquired Umbrella's research. Terrorist groups gained access to biological weapons. The problem Umbrella represented had metastasized, spreading beyond any single organization's control. In 2004, Leon Kennedy was sent to rural Spain to rescue Ashley Graham, the U.S. president's daughter, from a mysterious cult. What seemed like a standard kidnapping case revealed a new biological threat. Las Plagas, ancient parasites that had been sealed away centuries ago and recently unearthed. Los Illuminados, the cult that kidnapped Ashley, was led by Osmond Sadler, who used Las Plagas to control his followers. Unlike T-virus zombies, Plagas hosts retain intelligence while becoming absolutely obedient to Sadler's commands. The parasites could also cause dramatic mutations, transforming hosts into insectoid monsters when threatened. The Spanish village of Pueblo appeared normal from a distance, but contained horrors that rivaled Raccoon City. Villagers infected with plagas, called ganados, worked together with disturbing coordination, using weapons and tactics while showing no concern for their own survival. They spoke, planned, and adapted, making them far more dangerous than mindless zombies. Leon's infection with Las Plagas added urgency to his mission. The parasite grew inside him, threatening to take control of his mind and body. His partnership with Luis Serra, a former Umbrella researcher seeking redemption, provided hope for a cure. Luis had developed a drug that could slow the parasite's growth, buying time to find a permanent solution. The castle of Ramon Salazar revealed the cult's deep history and connections to Umbrella. Salazar, despite appearing childlike, was actually 20 years old, his growth stunted by plague infection. His castle contained centuries of biological experimentation, from medieval torture devices to modern laboratories, showing how Los Illuminados had studied parasites long before modern science. Ada Wong's reappearance in Spain complicated Leon's mission. Still working as a spy, now for Albert Weskier, Ada sought Las Plagas samples while maintaining her complex relationship with Leon. Her presence saved Leon multiple times while reminding him of their unfinished business from Raccoon City. The attraction between them remained strong despite years of separation and conflicting loyalties. Jack Krauser, Leon's former military partner thought dead, emerged as a secondary antagonist working for Weskier. Krauser had faked his death and joined Weskier's organization, seeking the power that viral enhancement could provide. His arm, mutated through plague infection, could transform into a blade-like weapon. His confrontation with Leon mixed combat with psychological warfare, using their shared history as a weapon. The revelation that Weskier orchestrated Ashley's kidnapping to obtain Plaga's samples showed his growing influence. No longer just seeking revenge or power, Weskier was building towards something larger, collecting viruses and parasites from around the world. His plan, still unclear, required specific biological weapons that he systematically acquired through manipulation and force. Leon and Ashley's escape from Spain required destroying Sadler and his operation. The final confrontation with the cult leader revealed the full horror of Plaga mutation, as Sadler transformed into a multi-legged monster with eyes covering his body. Only a rocket launcher provided by Ada allowed Leon to finally destroy the creature. The removal of Leon and Ashley's plague infections using a specialized radiation device developed by Luis before his death provided relief but also questions. How many other ancient biological threats exist in the world? How many cults, corporations, or governments were developing new weapons from old horrors? The establishment of the BSAA as an international anti-bioterrorism force marked humanity's organized response to the threat Umbrella had unleashed. Operating under United Nations authority, the BSAA could deploy worldwide to contain biological incidents. Chris Redfield became one of their primary field agents, his experience making him invaluable despite the psychological toll. In 2005, the BSAA's investigation of biological weapons dealer Ricardo Irving led to West Africa, where the story of bioterrorism came full circle. The region where Spencer had discovered the progenitor virus decades ago now hosted black market weapons deals involving infected humans used as living bombs. Chris Redfield and his new partner, Shiva Alomar, discovered that Irving was merely a middleman in a larger conspiracy. The true threat was Excella Gian, president of Tricell Pharmaceuticals' African division, who had partnered with Albert Weskier to create a new virus called Uroboros. Uroboros represented Weskier's vision for human evolution. Created from progenitor virus, combined with genetic material from various sources, Uroboros would either kill or transform those exposed based on their genetic worthiness. Weskier planned to release it globally, eliminating most of humanity, while evolving the survivors into a new species under his control. The African facility where Weskier developed Uroboros contained horrors that surpassed even Umbrella's worst experiments. Test subjects were force-fed Plaga parasites to create super soldiers. Failed Uroboros subjects became masses of black tentacles that consumed everything they touched. The indigenous population was treated as expendable test subjects for weapons meant to reshape the world. Jill Valentine's fate was revealed during this mission. Thought dead after a confrontation with Weskier 3 years earlier, Jill had survived but been captured and brainwashed. Weskier used a device attached to her chest to control her actions, forcing her to fight against Chris. The emotional weight of battling his partner and friend while trying to save her tested Chris's resolve. The liberation of Jill through Chris and Shiva's efforts provided a rare victory against Weskier, but also revealed the extent of his superhuman abilities. Weskier could move faster than human eyes could follow, possessed strength to punch through steel, and regenerated from injuries within seconds. He had become everything Spencer had envisioned for human evolution, though twisted to serve only himself. The final confrontation with Weskier occurred inside an active volcano, a fitting end for someone who sought to burn the world and rebuild it. Even overdosed with Uroboros and physically unstable, Weskier remained incredibly dangerous. His mutations transformed him into something barely recognizable as human, tentacles of black matter extending from his body as weapons. Chris and Shiva's victory over Weskier required not just firepower but teamwork and sacrifice. Using rocket launchers while standing in lava, they finally destroyed the man who had orchestrated so much death since the Mansion incident. Weskier's death marked the end of the original Umbrella conspiracy, though his influence would persist through those he had inspired or corrupted. The years following Weskier's death saw the rise of new bioterrorism threats. The technology and knowledge Umbrella had developed couldn't be contained. Every terrorist group, rogue state, and criminal organization sought biological weapons as equalizers against conventional military power. In 2012, The Bioterrorism Security Assessment Alliance faced its greatest challenge when a new virus, the C virus, appeared simultaneously in multiple locations worldwide. This virus combined the zombification properties of the T virus with the mutation capabilities of the G virus, creating weapons that could transform humans into insectoid monsters while retaining intelligence. Leon Kennedy, now a government agent directly serving the president, investigated C virus outbreaks in America and China. His mission was complicated by the revelation that National Security Advisor Derek Simmons had orchestrated bioterrorist attacks to maintain global stability through fear. Simmons belonged to an ancient conspiracy called the Family, which had influenced world events for centuries. Helena Harper, a Secret Service agent blackmailed by Simmons into helping assassinate the president, became Leon's partner in exposing conspiracy. Her sister Deborah had been used as a test subject for C virus. Transformed into a monster, Helena was forced to kill. This personal tragedy drove Helena's determination to stop Simmons regardless of legal consequences. Chris Redfield's BSA team in Eastern Europe encountered C virus weapons that decimated his unit. The trauma of losing his entire squad caused Chris to suffer amnesia, spending months as an alcoholic vagrant before Piers Nivens, his subordinate and friend, found him and helped him recover his memory and purpose. The Neo Umbrella organization emerged during this period, claiming to continue the original company's work. Led by a woman calling herself Ada Wong, though later revealed to be a clone named Carla Radames, Neo Umbrella sought to destroy the current world order through biological chaos. Carla's transformation from brilliant scientist to nihilistic terrorist stemmed from Derek Simmons' obsession with the real Ada Wong. Simmons had used C virus to transform Carla into Ada's exact duplicate, destroying her original identity. This violation drove Carla insane, leading her to plot the destruction of everything Simmons valued while wearing the face of the woman he desired. Jake Muller's introduction as Weskier's illegitimate son added new complexity to the biological arms race. Jake's blood contained antibodies that could cure C virus infection, making him incredibly valuable to both those fighting bioterrorism and those perpetrating it. His mercenary background and cynical worldview contrasted with the idealism of other heroes. Sherry Birkin returned as a government agent, her body permanently altered by G virus infection in childhood, granting her regenerative abilities. Her partnership with Jake mixed professional duty with personal connection, two children of biological weapons finding understanding in shared trauma. The global C virus pandemic of 2012 and 2013 resulted in millions of deaths across multiple continents. Major cities fell to infection, governments collapsed, and military forces were overwhelmed. The BSAA and other organizations barely contained the outbreak, suffering massive casualties in the process. Piers Nivens' sacrifice to save Chris Redfield exemplified the heroism required to fight bioterrorism. Infected with C virus but retaining his consciousness through willpower, Piers uses mutation's electrical abilities to help Chris escape before choosing to die rather than risk becoming a monster. The aftermath of the C virus pandemic led to increased international cooperation against bioterrorism. The BSA expanded, new treaties were signed, and biological weapons were further criminalized. Yet the knowledge existed, the technology spread, and new threats emerged constantly. In 2014, Alex Weskier was revealed as another recipient of Spencer's evolutionary experiments. Unlike Albert, who sought to rule through power, Alex sought immortality through consciousness transfer. Her experiments on a remote island involved torturing subjects with fear to prepare their minds for her consciousness. Barry Burton's return action to save his daughter Moira from Alex Weskier's island showed how the original Raccoon City survivors remain connected to the ongoing crisis. Moira's partnership with Claire Redfield, who was also trapped on the island, created a new generation of survivors trained by those who had faced the original outbreak. The island's trials revealed Alex Weskier's philosophy of evolution through fear and suffering. She believed that only those who could overcome absolute terror deserved to survive in the new world she envisioned. Her experiments created afflicted, humans mutated by torture and viral infection into grotesque weapons. Natalia Korda, a young girl with unusual immunity to fear due to traumatic experiences, became Alex Weskier's chosen vessel for consciousness transfer. The process appeared successful, with Alex's mind taking root in Natalia's body, though the girl's original personality survived, creating an internal battle for control. The revelation that Spencer had multiple Weskier children as part of his evolutionary project suggested more threats might emerge. Each Weskier child had been given wealth, education, and viral enhancement, then set loose to see who would prove superior. Albert and Alex were merely the most successful of potentially dozens of subjects. In 2017, the Blue Umbrella Corporation emerged, claiming to be a reformed version of the original company dedicated to fighting bioterrorism. Using Umbrella's salvage resources and research for benevolent purposes, Blue Umbrella offered their services to the BSAA and other organizations, though trust remained minimal. Chris Redfield's reluctant cooperation with Blue Umbrella showed how the lines between former enemies had blurred. Working with the organization bearing Umbrella's name, even reformed, required swallowing decades of justified hatred. Yet Blue Umbrella's resources and expertise proved valuable in containing new outbreaks, forcing uncomfortable alliances. The Baker family incident in Louisiana demonstrated how bioweapons could destroy ordinary lives. Jack and Marguerite Baker had been normal people until infected by a bioweapon called Evelyn, a genetically engineered child designed to control minds through mold-based infection. Their transformation from loving family to murderous monsters showed bioterrorism's cruelest aspect, turning victims into weapons against those they loved. Ethan Winters arrived at the Baker estate searching for his missing wife Mia, unaware he was entering a biological nightmare. Unlike trained agents like Leon or Chris, Ethan was a civilian with no combat experience, making survival through pure determination and desperation all the more remarkable. The Baker's plantation had become overgrown with black mold that served as Evelyn's nervous system, allowing her to see and influence everything within its reach. The family members, infected and controlled, exhibited superhuman strength and regeneration while maintaining twisted versions of their original personalities. Mia Winters' involvement revealed another layer of corporate malfeasance. She had worked for the Connections, a criminal organization developing bioweapons for profit. Evelyn was their product, designed to infiltrate enemy territories by posing as a child refugee before infecting and controlling local populations. Evelyn's obsession with creating a family stemmed from her accelerated aging and isolation. Created as a weapon but possessing a child's emotional needs, she used her powers to force others into twisted family roles. The Bakers became her parents, Mia her mother, and she sought Ethan as a potential father figure. The psychological horror of the Baker estate went beyond physical threats. Victims remained partially conscious while controlled, aware of their actions but unable to resist. Jack Baker's moments of lucidity, begging Ethan to free his family from Evelyn's control, showed the human tragedy beneath the monster appearances. Lucas Baker, the family's son, represented a different kind of evil. While his parents were victims, Lucas had been twisted even before infection. Evelyn's control gave him freedom to express sadistic tendencies he had always harbored, creating elaborate death traps and filming victims for his entertainment. Zoe Baker, the family's daughter, retained enough independence to help Ethan while seeking her own escape. Her partial resistance to Evelyn's control was never fully explained, suggesting individual variation in susceptibility to bioweapons. Her aid proved crucial to Ethan's survival, though their alliance was born of mutual desperation. The decision Ethan faced between saving Mia or Zoe with limited serum highlighted bioterrorism's moral complexities. Both women were victims deserving salvation, but resources were insufficient to save everyone. These impossible choices, repeated throughout the biological weapons crisis, showed how bioterrorism forced ordinary people into extraordinary moral dilemmas. Blue Umbrella's intervention, led by Chris Redfield, ended the Baker incident but raised questions about the reformed organization's methods and motives. Their soldiers used advanced equipment clearly derived from original Umbrella research, and their knowledge of Evelyn suggested longer involvement than admitted. The revelation that Evelyn was part of a series of bioweapons, with potentially more subjects existing, indicated the problem's scope. Each weapon represented years of research, massive funding, and complete disregard for human life. The organizations creating these weapons operated globally, making containment nearly impossible. Ethan's survival and eventual reunion with Mia seemed to offer rare happiness in the bioterrorism narrative. They relocated, started a family, and tried to build normal lives despite their traumatic experiences. Yet the past would not release them, as connections to bioweapons often proved permanent. The village in Eastern Europe where Ethan would face his final challenges had its own long history with biological manipulation. Mother Miranda, a scientist who had discovered the megamycete fungus a century earlier, had experimented on villagers for generations, creating a society built on biological horror. Miranda's motivation came from grief over losing her daughter to Spanish flu. The megamycete's ability to preserve consciousness within its biomass offered potential resurrection, driving Miranda to commit any atrocity that might reunite her with her child. Her experiments transformed villagers into lichens, vampire-like aristocrats, and worse. The four lords who served Miranda represented different approaches to biological enhancement. Lady Dimitrescu and her daughters were vampiric beings sustained by consuming human blood and flesh. Donna Beneviento used hallucinogenic flowers to create psychological horror. Salvatore Moreau had become an amphibious monster struggling with rejection and deformity. Carl Heisenberg merged biological enhancement with mechanical augmentation. Ethan's arrival in the village following his daughter Rose's kidnapping revealed connections between Miranda's work and previous bioweapon development. Miranda had mentored Oswald Spencer before he founded Umbrella, making her indirectly responsible for every biological disaster that followed. The revelation that Ethan had died at the Baker estate and been resurrected by megamycete infection recontextualized his survivability. He was no longer human, but a consciousness preserved in mold, explaining his ability to reattach severed limbs and survive fatal injuries. This truth, hidden even from Ethan himself, showed how bioweapons could fundamentally alter identity. Rose Winters, Ethan and Mia's daughter, represented a new generation born from bioweapon exposure. Her unique biology made her valuable to those seeking to weaponize or study biological enhancement. The cycle of children being targeted for their potential continued, echoing Sherry Birkin's experiences decades earlier. Chris Redfield's operations in the village showed his evolution from soldier to pragmatist. He killed Mia, who was actually Miranda in disguise, without explanation to protect operational security. His willingness to use brutal methods and work with Blue Umbrella showed how decades of fighting bioterrorism had hardened him. The village's destruction through explosive bombardment eliminated immediate threats, but scattered megamycete spores across the region. Complete containment proved impossible, as biological weapons designed to spread and survive resisted conventional destruction methods. Ethan Winter's final sacrifice to destroy Miranda and save Rose provided heroic closure to a civilian caught in biological warfare. His death and dissolution into mold represented the ultimate price of bioweapon exposure, even for those who initially survived. The aftermath of the village incident led to increased scrutiny of Blue Umbrella and other organizations using Umbrella technology. Trust remained minimal between former enemies forced to cooperate against common threats. The line between using bioweapon research for good versus perpetuating the cycle grew increasingly blurred. Years after Ethan's death, Rose Winters grew up under BSA protection, her unique biology making her both valuable and dangerous. Her abilities, derived from megamycete infection inherited from her parents, included enhanced physical capabilities and mental connections to the megamycete consciousness network. The emergence of new bioterrorism organizations using increasingly sophisticated weapons showed the crisis evolving rather than ending. Each group learned from previous failures, developing countermeasures against known responses. The arms race between bioterrorists and those fighting them accelerated continuously. Corporate involvement in bioweapons remained prevalent despite international treaties and oversight. Pharmaceutical companies, defense contractors, and agricultural corporations all possess technology that could create biological weapons. The dual-use nature of biological research made preventing weapons development nearly impossible. Government complicity in bioweapon development continued despite public condemnation. Black projects in multiple nations developed offensive and defensive biological capabilities. The justification of national security overrode ethical concerns, perpetuating the cycle Umbrella had started. The psychological impact on bioterrorism survivors received insufficient attention. PTSD, survivors' guilt, and existential crisis were common among those who had faced biological weapons. Support systems remained inadequate, leaving survivors to cope with trauma largely alone. Children of bioweapon incidents faced unique challenges. Many carried viral or parasitic infections that granted abilities but required lifetime monitoring. They struggled with identity questions, wondering if they were human, weapon, or something between. Society's fear and fascination with them prevented normal lives. The normalization of bioterrorism in certain regions created disturbing adaptations. Communities developed evacuation protocols for outbreaks. Schools taught children to recognize infection symptoms. Gas masks and hazmat suits became common household items in vulnerable areas. Medical advances derived from bioweapon research created ethical dilemmas. Treatments for previously incurable diseases came from studying viral mutations. Regenerative therapies originated from understanding how bioweapons rebuilt tissue. The beneficial applications of horrific research challenged simple moral judgments. Environmental damage from bioweapon incidents accumulated globally. Contaminated zones remained uninhabitable for decades. Mutated organisms disrupted ecosystems. Water supplies carried dormant viruses that could activate under specific conditions. The planet itself bore scars from biological warfare. The role of individuals versus systems in perpetuating bioterrorism remained debated. Were people like Spencer and Weskia unique monsters, or products of systems that rewarded ambition over ethics? Could replacing individuals change outcomes, or were structural reforms necessary? The question of disclosure versus secrecy plagued authorities. Full transparency about bioweapon threats might cause panic, but could prepare populations. Secrecy prevented mass hysteria, but left people vulnerable to threats they didn't understand. No approach satisfied all concerns. International cooperation against bioterrorism remained hampered by national interests. Countries shared some information while hiding strategic advantages. Mutual distrust prevented comprehensive responses. The global nature of the threat exceeded any single nation's capability, yet coordination remained minimal. The evolution of bioweapons from simple viruses to complex organisms showed terrifying progression. Early T-virus created mindless zombies. G-virus enabled continuous mutation. Las Plagas allowed controlled intelligence. Modern bioweapons combine multiple capabilities, creating threats that challenge categorical understanding. Prevention strategies focus on three approaches: destroying existing weapons, preventing new development, and preparing responses for inevitable incidents. Each approach faced limitations. Weapons were hidden or reproduced. Development continued secretly. Response capabilities remained insufficient for large-scale incidents. The role of whistleblowers in exposing bioweapon programs proved crucial, yet dangerous. Those who revealed corporate or government crimes faced retaliation, assassination, or worse. Legal protections remained weak, and public support wavered between viewing them as heroes or traitors. Cultural responses to bioterrorism varied globally. Some societies developed fatalistic acceptance. Others maintained denial despite evidence. A few embraced preparedness as civic duty. These differences influenced outbreak patterns and response effectiveness. The commodification of fear around bioweapons created its own problems. Media sensationalized incidents for ratings. Security companies profited from anxiety. Politicians exploited fears for support. The business of bioterrorism sometimes overshadowed actual prevention efforts. Technological advances in detection and treatment offered hope. Rapid diagnostic tools identified infections quickly. Broad-spectrum antivirals showed promise against multiple agents. Genetic therapies might reverse viral integration. Yet, these advances struggled to keep pace with weapon development. The philosophical questions raised by bioweapons challenge human self-conception. If viruses could rewrite identity, what defined humanity? If consciousness could transfer between bodies, what constituted self? If evolution could be directed, who decided humanity's future? Religious responses to bioterrorism range from viewing it as divine punishment to seeing survival as miraculous intervention. Faith communities provided support for survivors while sometimes hampering scientific responses. The intersection of belief and biology created complex social dynamics during outbreaks. The long-term trajectory of the bioweapon crisis remained uncertain. Optimists believed advancing technology would eventually provide definitive solutions. Pessimists saw accelerating weapon development outpacing defenses. Realists acknowledged the permanent alteration of human existence by biological weapons. As our journey through the Resident Evil universe draws to its close, we see a world forever changed by humanity's attempt to control evolution. What began with 3 scientists discovering a flower in Africa had spiraled into global crisis spanning decades. Corporations, governments, and individuals had wielded biological power irresponsibly, creating horrors that would echo through generations. The heroes who stood against bioterrorism, from Chris Redfield to Ethan Winters, showed humanity's capacity for courage against impossible odds. They were ordinary people who chose to fight extraordinary evil, sacrificing normal lives to protect others. Their victories were always temporary, but their resistance gave hope that bioterrorism could be opposed if not eliminated. The villains, from Spencer to Miranda, reveal how grief, ambition, and ideology could justify any atrocity when combined with scientific capability. They were brilliant minds who chose to reshape humanity without consent, viewing others as subjects rather than people. Their legacies persisted in weapons that outlived them and knowledge that couldn't be unlearned. The victims, numbered in millions, reminded us that bioterrorism's true cost was measured in human suffering rather than statistics. Families destroyed, communities erased, children orphaned or transformed. Each outbreak represented thousands of individual tragedies, lives ended or irrevocably altered by others' ambitions. The systems that enabled bioweapons, from corporate greed to government paranoia, showed how institutional failures amplified individual evil. Umbrella was more than Spencer's creation. It was enabled by societies that prioritized profit over safety, security over ethics, progress over precaution. As you drift towards sleep, let the complete story of biological terror in the Resident Evil universe settle into quietness. The heroes continue their vigilance, the weapons remain contained for now, and the world turns on despite its scars. Tomorrow brings new challenges, but also new opportunity for courage, compassion, and hope. Rest peacefully now, knowing that even in universes plagued by biological nightmares, there are always those willing to stand against the darkness. The fight against bioterrorism continues, but for now, in this moment, you can release those concerns and sink into restful sleep. The red and white umbrella that once symbolized protection became a warning, but warnings can teach wisdom. The viruses that transformed humans into monsters also revealed humanity's resilience. The corporations that pursued profit through horror eventually fell to justice. Sleep well and dream of worlds where science serves rather than enslaves, where evolution follows nature's pace rather than ambition's acceleration, and where humanity's greatest achievements come from cooperation rather than competition. The story of Resident Evil is complete for tonight. Its horrors transformed into gentle narrative to guide you into peaceful rest.